Right, hello. I'm Edward. Eddie the Tech Guy, I think, is my YouTube name. I also go by Close Bracket on multiple platforms. And I just want to make this video about the Online Safety Act. It's a very hot potato at the moment, and I obviously have a lot to say about it. That little box in the left-hand corner, that's going to be showing you a live view of the petition that's going on to repeal it, which we'll discuss because there has actually been an update by the government on what they say is their current stance. Although, as that ticker keeps going up, nearing 400,000, that might change. Of course, because so many people are getting irate about it, and in my view, rightfully so. I want to start with this painting by Salvador Dali, because I think it accurately reflects this current situation. Obviously, we have the elephants on stilts, or very elongated legs, and what was effectively being created here is a situation that can't withstand the criticism that is being thrown at it. So we do have an elephant on stilts, that eventually will fall to reality. And the problem is, we actually have another elephant in the room, in that this legislation has been passed using emotional tropes. Protect the children. Won't somebody please think of the children? And reality is now hitting home that actually the government doesn't care about children. Some very useful idiots were used to pass this legislation, but actually it's a mechanism with which to control a vast swathe of access to information, not just pornographic content. It was used to control a lot of things. Notably over the weekend, it was used to control access to information about protests on immigration. It was also used erroneously to censor information, or not censor specifically, but control access to historical information about Richard the Lionheart. So we're now getting to a point where anything that's considered harmful by computer systems, by social media platforms, regardless of the context, is just being censored. That's a very, very dangerous set of affairs, and it's dangerous because the only other countries that do this are either dictatorships or states where freedom of speech and expression simply does not exist in the way that we have always known it in the West, and especially in places like the UK and the US. So, particularly apt piece of artwork, in my view. There are certainly people that, at the moment, are sort of head in the clouds on the top of the elephant, right? Riding high, and they can't see actually this particular issue is not going to be resolved by mass censorship. You can look at comparable social situations like the Prohibition in America. Simply didn't work, and it didn't work because the systems that were put in place were immediately bypassed, because people wanted to keep drinking, and government and police and repercussions be damned. And it led to the speakeasies. It led to people selling wine with instructions on how not to make the wine. Don't put this in hot water and let it melt because then it would become illegal. He, of course, wink, wink. Like, uh, so really, we've only really sort of seen the first steps on this, where people are using VPNs to bypass the restrictions. And of course, if you do now use a VPN, or you get straight back to click yes, I'm 18, and you're straight into porn sites, or you can access any kind of content that they claim to regulate. And then, of course, there are small forums that have sort of gone and looked at the regulation and gone, whoa, criminal liability, having a person appointed to liaise with Ofcom, having all these extra costs. I think we'll just shut down. So, that's breaking communities. And bearing in mind, Keir Starmer said the other day, or the other week, we're a nation of strangers. A nation that is becoming less connected to each other. Not exactly the type of thing that you would expect his government to actually be proceeding with, because it actually makes people less connected. There's an argument that social media in itself is not very social, but that's not the argument that I'm making today. I'm saying that small forums and websites that are primarily run by hobbyists or are being affected by this and are closing down. So if you run a hobby forum for train enthusiasts, train spotters, or gardeners, or you happen to run a community forum for somebody, or some community village or something like that, you're now liable under the Online Safety Act. And they say they'll be proportionate, but the consequences are still there. And it doesn't really make sense to, from a risk perspective, to hold a parish council accountable, or hold a charity accountable, or hold somebody that's running an independent forum that's just an individual accountable for what somebody else has said, what somebody else has posted. That it makes zero sense. It's that individual's own responsibility. That's always been the case. The individual is responsible for their actions. The only responsibility that the platform should have is to take that content down. And that's why moderators and admins exist. They don't exist to check everybody's ID, and they don't exist to facilitate face scans. And I certainly wouldn't trust any forum or chat platform that said, we need to scan your face now so you can send messages and communicate with people about your hobby. What? Not going to happen in a month of Sundays. So that's the first bit of this talk, really. And eventually these elephants will fall because the argument is so weak. That's kind of where I was going with that. But of course, I did talk about this years ago. I wrote this in 2023. And again, I'll just zoom in a bit. We saw the same arguments. The Online Safety Bill proposes to save the children British children, your children, from the awful content posted on the internet by imposing safeguards such as risk assessments on content and criminal liability on tech executives who fail to meet their obligations. Right. Well, Mary down the road, who's running a book club, is not a tech executive, is she? A kids' charity such as the Children's University in Hull, or the what's it called, Veterans Hull. I can't think of the actual name of it now, but there's a veterans charity in Hull. If they're running a chat group, they're now liable under the Online Safety Act if somebody posts something that's offensive. Well, anybody who knows veterans know they have a very dark sense of humour. I mean, you've got to have a dark sense of humour if you're sitting in a damp field or on wet moorland for days and days and days eating rations, shitting in a bag. It's just, you've got to have a very quirky, dark sense of humour, which translates into online communication. It's just the way it is. But no, that can't happen anymore because the government and Ofcom say, we're not allowed to be offensive online. Just complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. It's Orwellian, it's Big Brother. People that believe that we live in this utopian world where offence doesn't exist or shouldn't exist, and swear words are completely obscene, and society should be like some 1940s 50s B movie where everybody's super polite. Need to get a fucking grip. Seriously, get a grip. There are people that swear, there are people that are offensive, there are people that are uncouth, and sometimes that's a good thing. I mean, look at Ozzy Osbourne, right? Just died, raised £170 million before he died for charity. Inspired countless people with music that was considered entirely profane at the time. But now iconic. We need that balance in society. So, at the time I wrote this blog post, I did actually hint that they were trying to break encryption. This is the real purpose, to undermine encryption. The little sideshow that is censorship, that's not the real intention. The real intention, and this goes, and I will show you examples, the real intention is to go after encryption, because the government here and the government in America and all the Five Eyes agencies want to break encryption. There was actually a suggestion by the Conservative government to just outlaw encryption altogether, which is utterly retarded. You might not like that phrasing at all, but it is just utterly retarded. And I can give you a really good example. When I was a teenager, I went and sat in Costa, and at that particular time, everything was unencrypted, so we would literally be stepping back in time, because at that time you could sit on a public Wi-Fi network and listen to all the communication on the network. So, you might be logging into your Facebook, or you might be logging into your emails or whatever, and I could sit there on the network and just listen to everything that was going on. So then when you logged into Facebook, it would send your username and your password, and I could go, nice, I'll have that, and I could log into your account at the same time. A little bit harder now, obviously. There are other mechanisms. Encryption sends that data just between you and Facebook. or whatever other site you're talking to. But at that time, it was all open. You could just look at everything. You know, it's not feasible to do this. The government know it's not feasible, or at least they should. The experts working for them know that it's not feasible, and yet they keep pushing, and they keep pushing. In fact, it was highlighted the other day. Let's just go to Marcus Hutchins. He made a very good point the other day. Marcus Hutchins, for those that don't know, is the guy that stopped WannaCry. So this is the point that he made. My concerns about the Online Safety Act remain the same as when I last wrote about it nearly a decade ago, when it was proposed as the Digital Economy Bill. So there you go. They've tried to ram this down the electorate's throat for nearly a decade. Now, the last time I remember it actually was as Theresa May's Snoopers Charter. So I don't know actually if that's the same bill. I don't think it actually is, but it's been here in multiple iterations. So the fact that they keep bringing it back and ramming it down people's throats just shows there's actually a deeper, darker intention, because people have said no multiple times, and yet here it is again. Let's just listen to what Marcus had to say. It normalises uploading sensitive documents such as ID scans to random websites, which will likely increase identity theft. Yep, of course it will. It makes it easier for someone to link a person's online account to their real-world identity, because of course it does, which will facilitate stalking and blackmail. Yes, absolutely. Just take the example that's been bandied around. You know, you need to put your ID in and link yourself to the porn sites you access. Well, that's a classic tactic of espionage agencies. You know, that's where the term honeypot actually originates. You know, by the Soviets. You know, they or now the Russians, I should say. You know, they would send a very pretty woman to you know, a guy that they knew they could manipulate. You know, this woman would pretend to be in love with him and very attracted to him, and oh, aren't you, you know, an amazing, handsome man, etc. And then they come together in the bedroom, and that man is now compromised, because if he doesn't do what they say, you know, she's going to claim rape, or she's going to leak information she's got out of him, or whatever. And now just think about that on a mass level. Everybody's sexual interests are, you know, exposed to the government and intelligence agencies and the police. You know, if somebody comes up to you in the street and says, "Oh, you know, we've been monitoring your online content and porn consumption. We know that you've been watching X content, and you've been browsing these websites. That's clearly not in line with your employment, so we want you to get this information. And if you don't get it to us by next week, we're going to you know, expose your material, your browsing habits to your family." You know, perfectly foreseeable scenario. Perfectly foreseeable scenario. Whether it's the government that does it, or it's you know, malicious actor, you know, just someone in crime that does that. Perfectly foreseeable. And don't think this information won't get leaked, because it will. Just look at the T app in America. So that app was set up to allow women to talk about men that they were going to date or had been on a date with, and it asked, of course it did, it asked for them to upload their ID. And what happened? All those IDs have been leaked. So what you have now is what was it called? Let me just check 1 second. What did I do with? Little diversion, but let me just check. Aha, that's what it's called. So it's called tspill.fun. So this website is made up of images of real women that uploaded their identities to that T app, and what happens is you click on a woman, and it's basically like the ranking website that Mark Zuckerberg built back before he built Facebook. So this is already a real world use case for how IDs and verification photos are going to be used against real people. In this case, supposedly an app that was there to protect women has now, resulted in these women being exploited. So it really doesn't stand to scrutiny that this legislation is making people safer. It doesn't. It doesn't meaningfully accomplish the intended goal of age-restricting content, which is mostly pointless anyway. Of course it is. We've already covered that in this video. You only need to look to history. You only need to look to, humanity and the way that people act. Because technology, amazingly, cannot solve all people problems. It's the nature of people. It encourages people to use VPNs, which increases the amount of resources it takes to investigate real crimes and also complicated cybersecurity monitoring. Yeah, again, I was only having a discussion earlier with a friend and colleague who works, in an IT department, and what they're now seeing is lots and lots and lots of connections from all different kinds of countries. And if they ever have a cyber incident, it's a big organisation. If they ever have a cyber incident, they are going to struggle to identify, without lots of time being taken up, where that connection, or where which connection caused the incident. Because traditionally, a lot of the traffic just comes from the UK, but now comes from everywhere. So actually it's causing cybersecurity issues. So that was a really, I thought it was a really good post by Marcus. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing that, but fair use and all. There we go again. James Woodward, Director of Communications at the BCS. VPNs top download charts as age verification laws kick in. Of course they're going to do. So let's go back to my blog post, because there is something else I want to share in there. We've already covered that fallacy. So yeah, this is something to be wary of, the legal yet harmful definition. Obviously, that's as broad or as wide really as the government want it to be. They at the moment they're talking about porn and they're talking about suicide content, etc. But ultimately, they can change that whenever they want. They can change that definition to be whatever it is. You could argue over the weekend, we had this. So, content over the protests was censored, and then all of a sudden there was an announcement that a police unit is going to monitor online signs of anti-migrant disorder. And I realised that, by the way, this is not the official news site. This is just the MSN thing, but it seems to be the Guardian. But yeah, I thought it was really, really bizarre that on the weekend that this was enacted, while everyone's focused on porn, because that was actually the main narrative. Oh, it's just going to block porn. We're just protecting the kids. Yada yada. All of a sudden, oh, by the way, we've got a new national police unit that's going to monitor social media for signs of anti-migrant communication and disorder. How convenient, you know. And it's just as if, you know, it's all just fallen into place. You know, and again, what's also really odd is if it's not as if it's the first time the government has lied, because they had the courts gag. I think it was 20 or 22,000 Afghan migrants that came over that had actually helped the British Armed Forces. So whilst all the people that were coming over on the dinghies, you know, the 20 odd or whatever it was that were coming over, 20 odd thousand that were coming over, they were bringing over additional people. So it was the figures were not trustworthy, because all of the government departments, all of the local councils, etc., were gagged, which is completely undemocratic. Because, you know, and it was purely because they were fearful of unrest across the country. Well, of course, people are going to be upset, because not only were the numbers high for people coming over, but they were also being told completely wrong numbers. You know, these people were being put in completely inappropriate places, and you know, it's getting extremely hard to find a doctor's appointment. Medication is sometimes late. You know, you can't get a dentist. You know, schools are at capacity, etc. So you know, basic things are now starting to fall apart, and instead of actually addressing the issues, we get this sort of bizarre response that actually you would not be far-fetched to argue would happen in Saddam Hussein's Iraq. Thankfully, they're not censored the coffee yet. So, that's about all I'm going to say on the migrant front, but I do think the censorship is highly convenient. Well, the thing I actually wanted to show was not the Pimp My Reich, but that's a very good video, satirical video, I should say. Yeah, so global legislative efforts. This is what I wanted to show. So you've got the Trojan horse there, of course, being welcomed in, brought into the city, and people are celebrating that it's been brought into Troy, right? You know, is it Troy? Hang on. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just trying to remember the full story in my head. Yeah, so obviously it's been brought in, and you know, they're having a merry dance around it, but the real purpose is inside. And not to labour the point, because I have already said this, but that is this legislation. Okay, people are sort of dancing around the Trojan horse at the moment. You know, going, oh, we're protecting children from porn, we're doing the right thing. Finally, the government's taking responsibility away from, you know, finally the government's putting responsibility onto the platforms. And in one really unhinged post earlier, I saw a parent that worked in IT saying, you know, the government was actually taking responsibility off him as a parent, and parents nationwide, to actually filter what kids had access to, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, hang on a second. No, that's not something you should be. That's not something you should be celebrating at all, because as soon as you abdicate your own personal responsibility in that way as a parent, you may as well just accept that you are a very, very, very big child who can't think for themselves. At that point, you are not an adult, because you're not thinking. You have switched this off, and you basically want the government to do the thinking and problem solving for you, and that's not what should be happening. So, again, the real purpose of this is to undermine encryption. It's to erode your privacy. But it's not just happening here. In America, they've had Copper and Earn It Acts. Again, these things have been introduced 3 times in America, just like they have here. There's a pattern building up. You see? They use the protect the kids argument. They're relying on parents, they're relying on grandparents, getting emotional. In fact, George Carlin said this best. Let me see if I can drag up the video. Come on. Kids. Yeah, so here we go.
Now that I use Monday service, AI...
Adverts, man, seriously.
So you have to remember as you go through life in this country, it's all bullshit, and it's bad for you. Now, speaking of parents and speaking of bullshit, 2 ideas which aren't always mutually exclusive, by the way. I'd like to mention a special kind of bullshit that has taken hold in this country in the last 30 to 40 years. It's a form of bullshit that really only can be called child worship. It's child worship. It's this excessive devotion to children. I'm talking about today's professional parents, these obsessive diaper sniffers who are overscheduling and overmanaging their children and robbing them of their childhoods. Even the simple act of playing. Even the simple act of playing has been taken away from children and put on mommy's schedule in the form of play dates. Something that should be spontaneous and free is now being rigidly planned. When does a kid ever get to sit in the yard with a stick anymore? You know, just sit there with a fucking stick. Do today's kids even know what a stick is? You know? But you know something, a kid shouldn't be wasting his time with a stick anyway. If he's 4 years old, he should be home studying for his kindergarten entrance exams. Do you know about that shit? Oh, they have them now. Yeah. There are places that have kindergarten entrance exams. The poor little fuck. The poor little fuck, he can barely locate his dick.
So, it wasn't quite the video I was thinking about, but he did, even in that one, he raised a very good point about child worship. So, you know, it is leading on to where I'm going. You know, effectively, you know, as a parent myself, you know, when you have kids, your world effectively does revolve around your kids. But in America especially, it is excessive. So, you know, any suggestion of protecting children more gets immediate support. It's a bit like when somebody says, "Oh, we need to build more refuges because there's more domestic violence." Loads of immediate millions worth of pounds of funding for female refugees, nothing for men, literally nothing. Let's actually watch the would you even?
The low IQs and the dumb behavior and the bad decisions. Right away they start talking about education. That's the big answer to everything. Education. They said we need more money for education. We need more books, more teachers, more classrooms, more schools. We need more testing for the kids. You say to them, well, you know, we've tried all of that and the kids still can't pass the test. They say, don't you worry about that. We're going to lower the passing grades. And that's what they do in a lot of these schools now. They lower the passing grades so more kids can pass. More kids pass, the school looks good, everybody's happy, the IQ of the country slips another 2 or 3 points, and pretty soon all you'll need to get into college is a fucking pencil. Got a pencil? Get the fuck in there, it's physics. Then everyone wonders why 17 other countries graduate more scientists than we do. Education. Politicians know that word. They use it on you. Politicians have traditionally hidden behind 3 things: the flag, the Bible, and children. No child left behind. No child left behind. Oh, really? Well, it wasn't long ago you were talking about giving kids a head start. Head start, left behind. Someone's losing fucking ground here. But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right.
Yeah. So, again, absolutely right. Leave it to George Carlin to be bang on the money. Don't quite agree with everything he said there, but lobbying is absolutely a thing. Even over here, ironically enough, you had the Church of England lobbying for this Online Safety Act, while simultaneously the Bishop of Oxford was getting a lot of flack because he actually failed to stop real harm in the real world to children, sexual harm and physical harm. So, there is a certain irony to the people that lobby for this kind of legislation and the circumstances in which they did it, because they are effectively calling for people not to be able to access content whilst they themselves cause that specific type of harm or fail to act on complaints around it. You really sort of have to look deep into why and who, and especially the financial incentives behind these things. It hasn't escaped my notice, for example, that there are a lot of people popping up on LinkedIn that are providing face verification services now, seemingly just crawling out of the woodwork all of a sudden. And they all seem to be based in America. Well, of course, if they're based in America, they are obligated, just like any Chinese company is, like ByteDance, that runs TikTok, they are obligated to provide information to the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA. Just like ByteDance is obligated to provide content and data to the Chinese Communist Party. So, there's no recourse. If you provide your identity to an American company, or they take a face scan, that goes immediately straight into the American intelligence apparatus, and they can track you no matter what you do. They already control Facebook and Google and Microsoft, and excuse me, they have backdoors into your operating system and your service and your services, Gmail and OneDrive, etc. If you think about your phone, there are apps that you can't uninstall. Facebook was caught the other day running a server to intercept traffic on Android devices, so that if you were browsing in private mode, it would actually redirect that traffic to Facebook's servers, so that they knew what you were looking for in private mode. So this all gets very, very dark very, very quickly. But of course, it's not just America, it's Australia as well. They've got the Online Safety Act 2021, which also used the Think About the Children argument. New Zealand, they've got a very long named piece of legislation. The Films, Videos and Publications Classification, Urgent Interim Classification of Publications and Prevention of Online Harm Amendment Bill 2020. Christ. So, that's a very, very generic sounding piece of legislation. And it seems like when I did my research on it, they actually used it to take down the live stream of the Christchurch terror attack. Now, you could argue that's a good use. Okay, you could argue that's a good use. My issue with it is people should see that type of content. People need to see reality. We've got this real aversion in the West to seeing reality for what it is. There are a lot of people who think you should just be able to browse the internet and not come across reality and things that are offensive and might cause you some distress in your head. My argument is exactly the opposite. I think you should be able to filter it. And we do have not safe for work filters. Maybe there should be another filter for gory content. But I think we need to actually accept that that is reality. And yes, there are going to be people that review that, and it reinforces biases in their head that actually, he's cool and he was right for doing what he did. But those people are lunatics. Doesn't matter if you take that specific content down. They are going to find other things to consume. And arguably, those types of people need to be in, an asylum. They need to go through intensive psychological rehabilitation, because they are on the way to radicalisation, or if they're not already radicalised. But that content should be, should be available. Not necessarily easily accessible, but it should be available, because it's a bit like burning books. If you start burning books just because they're offensive and censoring them, you're going down a very dark path. It makes it more interesting. It's the Streisand effect, isn't it? Sorry. So yeah, and then last but not least, we've got Canada with the Online Harms Bill, created because government's commitments to address online safety. But again, theirs ultimately failed. But I suspect it will be rammed down Canadians' throats again, if it hasn't already been. Again, I wrote this a few years ago, so a couple of years down the line. I've not really looked into it. But the problem is, you know, governments are ramming this down people's throats several times, and you need to think about this in the context of if this was a real person. You know, let's say if this was a relationship, because ultimately this is a relationship between the people and the governments. You know, so if the government, if you think about the government as a person, and they kept saying to you, "Oh, let's just you know, go in that bedroom there," you know, a bit of cheeky, and he said no, and then 5 minutes later they're like, "Oh, let's just go in that bedroom, just go in that bedroom there," and he said no. And by this time you're getting a bit annoyed, and then they come back again and they say, "Oh, let's just go in that bedroom and try this," and you're like, "No." You know, just why aren't you listening? We've said no. Doesn't matter if you say, let's go in this bedroom, or let's just try this. The answer's no. You know, stop trying to force this on people. I don't know how I can make that more clear. Governance like this relies on consent, not let's keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until we actually get it. That's not democracy. That's dictatorship. It was the same with the Irish when the EU kept trying to ram the various forms of the Lisbon Treaty down the throat. So the Irish kept saying no, and then they got it in through an Act of Parliament. You know, and we can't keep going down that route because, you know, it's really not democratic in the slightest. And of course, Baroness de Souza, she recognises this. So, going to Hansard, this particular paragraph here, the Secretary of State can issue guidance and directions to Ofcom, an organisation, by the way, that has never regulated anything outside the realms of radio and TV. You know, an organisation which needs a physical platform and a licence to operate. You don't need a licence to register a domain. You don't need a licence to sign up for a server or host a web service. Although I suspect they will try that, but the problem with that is you can host a web service from anywhere. You can even host it on one of these. So how that's going to be feasible? That's a Raspberry Pi, by the way, for those that can't see or don't know what it is. So if I can set that up in my bedroom or my office, as I happen to be now, you know, why would I bother applying for a license? Because I could just set that up, connect it to my router, you know, do all the right filtering, set up a VLAN, you know, make sure that it's secure. All the traffic coming in can only reach that and doesn't go onto my private side of things. Well, I'm sure people would try. You know, why? Why would I bother applying for a license? You know, we're going back to you know, the point that, you know, this is sort of the point where you start to argue, well, is on premises better than in the cloud? Because in the cloud, it's just somebody else's computer. They have control over the hardware. They can flick the switch. Whereas actually now, you know, if you take back control, you start hosting things yourself. You know, a little device like that, all you need is internet connectivity and power. So, you know, it's micro. It's like the size of a credit card. So these things can be hidden in lampposts. They can be hidden in, you know, cars and you know, parks and God knows wherever, as long as you've got that internet connection as well. So just imagine if we get to a point where actually we are being censored heavily, these types of devices are going to become, you know, effectively a new internet. You know, peer-to-peer sharing, mastodons, all that kind of stuff. But that does come with problems. So I wrote this in 2022. I actually wrote it on my personal blog, and then these guys came along, and at first they actually just copied it without consent, and I sort of went, well, I could fight them, but I read some of the other content and it was all right. So, and I've met some interesting people through it. So, SecJuice. It's a non-profit cybersecurity journal, and specifically, this is the only article that's of mine on there. But I can write more if I so wish. And the problem I identified was Mastodon, which is a self-hosted social media platform. Think of it as like your own Twitter that you control. Had a major paedophile problem. And I don't know why they use this image, but there we are. So the major reason why I was investigating this is because it was at the time when Elon Musk had just bought Twitter, and loads of people, especially younger people, were going, "Oh my God, I don't like Elon Musk. He's awful. I need to go to a different platform." And loads of people were moving over to Mastodon. So I went and had a look. I'll skip all the explanation of it all. And what I found were huge communities of maps. Minor attracted person. So if you're not aware, map is just a sneaky way of minimising, minimising, but also integrating paedophilia with the LGBT plus community, which, as I've stated there in the article, I very much doubt they want to be associated with any of that complete bollocks. Certainly, none of the LGBT plus people I've come across would want to be associated with that. So, you can block and ban things on Mastodon. The problem is, as I've just said, anybody can set one of these up. So you had all these types of links here. There's one there for feminism, there's rubber, whatever that is, milk a cafe, whatever that is. You've got a gay one there, and then preteengirls.biz, which you don't really need an explanation. Your own imagination sort of tells you what kind of content is going to be on there. So then I went to, and I'll just zoom in for this. You can sort of see I'm looking at a directory here. You can search for all types of content, so academia, activism, etc. You can search by words, by minimum user, maximum users, the type of languages, etc. So I just clicked adult and hit search, and the first one that came up was a map community, non-normative identities alliance. It was introduced as a concept on Map Twitter in 2019 as an attempt to find a common ground between the map community, the other paraphiliacs, queer people who, and then it runs out of space, but they identify themselves as LGBT, tech, and adult. So just imagine, in the context of the Online Safety Act, all the major porn sites now require verification, and all of a sudden you've got teens on the lookout for irregularly accessed sites like this, and they're going to be finding what sites that might identify as LGBT, except they're actually being driven to paedophile sites. And there's another couple of examples here, one of which actually says they accept minors. We allow minors aged 13 plus. A school for all freaks and their allies. What makes Freak University unique? Unlike most servers for freaks, we allow minors. The MAP Support Club is a community for minor-attracted people of all ages who are committed to never harming a child and are fundamentally against adult-child sex. Well, look, if you're feeling that way, you shouldn't be surrounding yourself with people who are attracted to children. You should be seeking support. Creating a little community like this. I mean, look, that's got 23 users, 104 posts. This one's got 490 users and 118,000 posts. So it doesn't really take much imagination to imagine the kind of stuff that's on there. And again, they're both listed as adult. So it seems like there's a bit of gaslighting going on with these because, surely if these people are actually what they say they are in terms of, they're just committed to sort of coming together and to talk about their issues, whatever, they would list it under something completely different and it will be gated, But this one is a bit more in the open. They're sort of saying, well, we accept teenagers. Completely wrong. And there's no level, absolutely no level of policing on this at all. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't verify actually what content was on there because there was no way in hell I was accessing those servers. But I did find it interesting actually looking at what types of content were actually out there on the Fediverse. Now, what I find really interesting is actually, if you go onto what's billed as the dark web, those types of servers would be hacked and just obliterated immediately. The criminal underworld, or the dark belly of the internet, really doesn't tolerate paedophilia at all. There was one just other thing on this particular post. Zach's Law. So this is part of the Online Safety Act as well, which criminalises sending flashing images. So obviously I'm epileptic, and I'm completely bemused by this. I really don't understand if somebody sends a flashing image and it causes a seizure, right? Unless you're specifically trying to cause that person a seizure, I really don't understand how you can be sent to prison. And this is effectively the route they were going down with this, because this lad had been targeted or something like that, and they were sort of saying, oh, well, you need to stop flashing images on the internet. Well, I think, first of all, I think he was about 11, so his mum really needed to keep him off the internet or restrict his use. It's fairly obvious if you're that age and you're going on the internet, you're going to encounter trolls, and it's a bit naive, really, of mum to be letting him on the internet. We don't need a law for this. You need common sense. If you're going on the internet, you're going to attract trolls. We've covered the harms there that'll come with that, but I don't think I quite covered Baroness de Souza's recognition of censorship. The Secretary of State can issue guidance and directions to Ofcom. I think I got a bit sidetracked there with Ofcom, which in turn has a crucial role in acting against a provider that is not complying with the requirement to fulfil the duties under the Act, including the imposition of fines of up to £18 million on business disruption measures, whatever those actually are, because it's not actually clarified. In other words, outright censorship. So it even says it on Hansard. It was recognised by Baroness de Souza. So props to her for recognising what this actually is. and calling it out in the House of Lords. Although maybe not, because she's actually saying there, this is a truly important bill, and I congratulate the authors and campaigners as well as the government on bringing it to this advanced stage. I nevertheless believe that it could be further improved, and that the most liberal interpretations of online freedom of expression. Yeah, okay, fine. So maybe just playing to the crowd there. But of course, it has now come to fruition, and we've got this lovely little Great British meme here. TLDR, no, because the petition that's in your bottom left is now sort of near 400,000 signatures, which means they've got to respond, of course, to the petition, and organise a debate. But the response, as you would imagine, is just blather. I won't cover it here, but it's just absolute blather, and it basically just says we're going to be carrying on. We'll be carrying on, and up yourselves. But that's not stopped people, of course. So unhinged loopholes people are using to get round. Obviously, you've got VPN, which have seen a 1,800% rise in sales. Oh, didn't mean to click that. Go away. Norman Reedus face. I don't quite know who that is. I've not played that. Or not seen that. So they're using his face, using Sims characters, and of course Ofcom have come out and been like, companies that fail can expect enforcement action. So just a bit draconian, innit? So yeah, I mean, it's just not going to plan. I mean, everything that I said at the start of this video is happening, and I just sort of go back to, those elephants really. How long is it before those elephants stumble and this entire thing collapses? Because it's causing so much havoc already. It's causing so much hassle. It's causing people to feel spied upon, and as though we live in a Big Brother dystopian society. It's causing people to shut down communities. No doubt there are parish councils and councils, etc., wondering how to comply with this because they can't accept comments. You'll see certain types of content being shut off. You might even see, as we saw with GDPR, you might even see foreign countries starting to slowly cut off Brits, which Wikipedia has actually come out and said that it will do. It's going to restrict the number of Brits because it can't operate as it should do with the Online Safety Act as it is. So, very, very interesting times, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So I'll put these links in the description for the video. Do feel free to comment. Do feel free to check out my website. I'll put a link for that in the video as well. And if you got any thoughts, get in touch. If there's any interesting articles out there that you want me to have a look at, send me those as well. And thanks for watching, especially if you got this far, because looking at the timer, we're now sort of an hour and 5 minutes in. So I didn't mean for it to go on this long, but there we are. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.